Hello, everyone. It is March 31st. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It is 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, PM, here in East Tennessee. So, we'll jump right in. If you all don't know that there's a couple of special elections tomorrow. So I'm just going to give you quick final thoughts on those and what's going on with them. All right. This is April 1st. There's been early voting going on. So we'll jump right in. First one, this is the early vote in the two Florida elections. Florida 1, that was Gates' seat, and Florida 6 was Waltz's seat. Okay. This is the turnout so far in early votes. Both were heavy Trump districts and Republican districts in 24. Florida 6, not as much. The turnout has not been as exciting in 6 for the Republicans that it probably should be. I'm predicting a win here. With that early vote, you're looking at the Democrats would have to have independents break heavily their way, and on top of that, would probably have to have a higher election day turnout as well to offset these numbers. So I don't see that. It's not going to be 2024 numbers, and specials are hard to tell for a multitude of reasons. Um, you know who your voters are, who's coming out. You got spring breaks going on, so that's going to take some families that might be more conservative leaning off the table. You have an energized party that just lost a major election, so they're going to be all fired up. So plus you got generic Republicans without Trump on the ballot, and Republicans don't do as good with Trump on the ballot. Period. So here we go. So I think Florida 1 is definitely safe. Florida 6, Republicans will win it, but I'm thinking like 4-6. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was like 3-5, somewhere in that range. But we'll say like 4-6. We'll say around 5 points. Anything better than that would probably beat expectations at this point, but Republicans should hold that seat. Now, the other one, I've always thought Republicans were going to lose. I've said it in one of my videos, but this is a final poll from Atlas. 52.9 for Susan Crawford and Brad Schimmel at 46. They basically giving them the Democrat a 6-point win. Now you got to understand something, just like I said about specials and how that comes into play. So that's what it is. And what Atlas is doing and why they were very accurate in 2024, they model the electorate. And they know that a lot of these low propensity Trump voters that delivered Wisconsin to Trump, they're just not voting for a Wisconsin Supreme Court race, regardless of how important it is. And when these voters might complain when let's say Wisconsin redistricts, and because of that, we lose the House by 1 or 2 seats, and then they start impeachment, and they complain about that. Well, they stayed home and they didn't vote in this case, and that's what's going to happen. That's why it's important, among other things. It'll be then a 4-3 liberal state Supreme Court. So, but that's where it's looking. If this doesn't hold up, that means more of the low props did show out and vote, came out in last minute with the last minute pressures coming in and truths by Trump, etc. So that would be that. Or there's an independent break that we're not seeing among people for Trump. But Atlas has a good track record so far. My gut was on this. We just don't do good in these. I mean, Hagedorn lost. We lost the one in Pennsylvania. It's just a different electorate, okay? And it's taking place where it's not a traditional election time, okay? So the Democrats who have more money, more organization, they are going to be able to bring more of their people out. And I think that's what's going to happen tomorrow. Republicans keep the 2 Florida houses, but lose to Wisconsin. So anyway, I just want to give you a prediction and my thoughts on that. So moving on to the big story, in my opinion. Okay. All right. And that is political death sentence. Populist Marine Le Pen banned from running in French presidential election by court. Okay. They pulled up some embezzlement charge and all this crap going on. Okay. She's going to be sentenced to jail. She won't serve a day in prison. She'll have to stay in her house. It's some like embezzlement thing with EU funds. It's garbage. They pulled this on people before in the European Union. This is typical of them going after their political opponents, particular center right populists and nationalists. Okay, this is the same thing as what they did to Romania, to Georgescu in Romania. It's the same thing they did to Trump here with all those indictments. It's what they're doing to Bolsonaro now in Brazil. Okay, and it's a playbook, and they're going to keep doing that playbook. Okay, this is the European Union, this is NATO, this is the unelected bureaucratic institutional globalists, progressive in nature, totalitarian in practice, and this is them. Okay, and and Marine Le Pen is up in the last poll by 12. Okay, she would win the first round, and this time she would probably win in the second round. Macron is that unpopular. France is not feeling that hard left alliance as an alternative. This was her time. So unless she can get this reversed or find a suitable replacement, because I think Bardella is just not up to the task. He's a little too young. Maybe that can change in a year. I don't know. Or find somebody a little more experienced to replace her. But this is ridiculous. Okay. And if you don't see the link, that's why it's so important. You got to see what's going on. They called globalists for a reason. It's global institutions. It's international institutions. It's multinational corporations. Okay, it's these unelected bureaucrats. Whether it's a black robe blocking Trump's every single thing with Trump's thing has nothing to do with the Constitution, or trumped up charges against Trump, or this now with Marine Le Pen. Okay, and even in and it's still going in. And if you notice, it's in countries where they really care about, these globalists care about. Like they cared about Romania with Georgescu. Okay, they let it go in Hungary. Well, okay, with Orban and Fico in Slovenia. Oh, it's just Slovakia. I'm sorry. Okay, and they let that go. But Romania, it's right on the Ukraine border. There's U.S. missiles there. We can't have that. And I think that played in a role to it. It's just like the USAID money. Why did we give 111 million to Georgia? Why are we so interested in Serbia? Okay, which is not a member of the European Union, not a member of NATO, and historical Russian ally. Okay. So, and it's been going on. So, like, for example, you have his name is Dijic in I think it's called the Sprska region, okay, of Bosnia, which is pro-Serbian. They arrested that guy. And in Moldova, if you don't know Moldova, which is right again bordering in that area, it's about half Romanian and the other half are mostly ethnic Russians. And there's a region there called Gaguzia, okay? And there's a huge poll out there because the Moldovans, and under the head of a woman named Sandu, is a nut job, a globalist nut job, just like the leader of Georgia just resigned, just after Christmas, or had to step down. They arrested the governor of Gaguzia, okay, and 37% of the arrests could lead to the separation of Georgia. That's of Moldovans, okay, and that was a poll taking place. Oh, sorry, I got that right here. Okay, that on the top. That on the top is the amount of people basically who oppose the arrest. Okay, so simultaneously, and I did skip over this picture. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over this picture because now, while not we'll say a thriving Western democracy, Turkey is a member of NATO. Erdogan arrested his chief of political opponent, who's the mayor of Istanbul. So everybody says Turkey's like, oh, we're not really part of the club, even though we're a member of NATO, but it's working for the globalists in France and Moldava and Romania. Let's try it here. Great. All this in the name of democracy. If you can't see the commonality, the link, the globalist link here. And they did this poll in Moldova because it's a key thing, because there are two provinces in Moldova, okay, that are ethnic Russian. One is called Transnistria, which is to the west of Kherson, and it's also known for a huge weapons depot. The Russians so it's like these things can come into play. Okay, so are they going to separate? Is Russia going to come to their aid? Well, that's a problem. Is the U.S. going to get that involved? I guarantee you, Sanders does not arrest a leader of a separate without getting a blessing from EU or other pages, because they don't want to be the ones responsible for a trigger event that starts a chain reaction of negative things from happening. Okay, But this is what's going on, all in the name of democracy. Democracy. We got to stop the. What are these? Because they want their nation to be what it is. They don't want to get flooded by 20, 30% of their population from third world countries that have no intention of assimilating. That can where they can't walk down the street, where they're going to get mowed down by cars and knifed attacked, or perhaps they don't want so much of their money going to a globalist war in Ukraine, serving the interests of the globalists on the eastern in the Donbass over things like resources, power, energy, just geopolitics. And they want to set the course for their own nation, decide what they want to do. Okay, and perhaps they want some traditional values, and they don't want LGBT stuff being shoved down their throat from Brussels. They want to court. They want to plan their own course, set their own course, their own destiny. These people aren't far right nut jobs. They're not far left nut jobs. Matter of fact, in many of these cases, domestically and economically, they're more left, particularly than we would think in the United States in terms of like domestic economics and some issues. And many of these leaders are gay, for example. Alice Weidel, she's gay. Geert Wilders in Dutch in Holland is gay. Okay, so it's not like they're harping back to some, like they say here with the media with us, the Christian nationalists and so forth. No, but they also recognize you need some key common culture to unite you as a people. But that's not what these globalists and these multinational institutions and corporations want. They want, like, the one world order types. Okay, homogenized system. You're in control. You don't have a national ID, right? Turn you into a QR code. That's it. They're in charge. The elites are in charge. All right. So moving on, this was a article that was in the Times. Key takeaways from the America's secret military partnership with Ukraine. An investigation by the New York Times has revealed that America was woven into the war far more than previously known. No, really. I mean, and it goes on to mention how we planned strikes, the attackums. Anybody knew that, but the average Upper West Side latte sipping, elitist piece of garbage, who reads the Times on a daily basis, he doesn't know an attack from a BMP. Okay. And he doesn't understand that you need key intelligence that Ukraine and even most of Europe does not possess. Even France and the UK's military technology in terms of RSI reconnaissance, intelligence, okay, and surveillance, okay, which is key. Basically, satellites. You take the information, you input in the computer, then the computer ships it to the weaponry programs, and the missile fires based off those originating coordinates. Well, you can't fire like Ukraine now just hit the Verkhansk region in Russia proper, attacking, by the way, energy infrastructure, civilian energy infrastructure. Okay, without intelligence of the United States. Okay. Ukraine doesn't have the ability to input that technology into a HIMARS, operate it efficiently, and to launch it without U.S. help. Okay. Also, planning offensives. Anybody with the brain already knew this. Okay. So I don't know why they're coming out with this kind of now. It's like when they came out with the article about the 12 CIA bases operating Ukraine prior to the special military operation. It's like they're trying to tell their readers something, what's going on. Like, we got to get involved. Europe's been involved. We've already been involved. So it's not a big deal to maybe get more involved. Or maybe, I don't know what they're trying to do by doing this. But this is not, this is not a secret with anyone with a brain or anybody who gets their information outside of the corporate media globalist realm of said publication New York Times or said publication Financial Times or MSNBC. All right. So I thought it was an interesting revelation. It's just like, why now? So now here's another one when you're like, why now? This is Spectator. You can't think of one of the more globalist institutions. A populist hating paper, Keir Starmer's peacekeeping plan for Ukraine won't work. No crap. I've mentioned this much of times in my videos. You don't have the military, even with France. You could combine maybe because you can't put your whole army in there. Then you don't have any army left. But their whole army, the British, is 72,000. France is about 90,000. Half for logistics. You're only looking at like 3 divisions for at best for Britain, 4 for France, 100,000. What's their logistics? They don't have it. They rely on the United States. They have limited logistics, limited supply, limited command and control. They put them in there. They will be targets for missiles. It makes you wonder why Russia isn't using that Oreshnik. And we've all gotten a lot of reports how they're mass producing it. So if they're mass producing, we'll save it for when the British French decide to do something stupid and cross the border from Poland or Romania into Ukraine. They'll be hit with mass missile attacks. There goes their divisions. So either the spectator is just saying, guys, this is a stupid idea, put the brakes on, and messaging it to their globalist readers, leaders, and sending that message, or they're trying to get them to maybe step up, come up with a better plan, because this flimsy talking, and think of how it affects. He's trying to make a deal with Trump, Putin, and Zelensky, and all the crap going back and forth with them, and missile strikes against infrastructure and energy infrastructure, or is it energy and infrastructure, energy infrastructure, or and then he's got Zelensky parading around with the European globalist leaders like this schmuck Starmer and Macron, and they're talking about UN peacekeepers. There's no one's on the same page. There's no continuity, which makes me to believe Russia's just going to continue west. And there are reports this weekend that, and things Putin has said over the last several days that make you go, yeah, he's done. And then you hear the reports of troops massing in Zaporozhye and Sumy region, preparing for, and if you don't know, that's the farthest southwest and the farthest northeast on that huge line, where they're just, are they going to launch massive formations there? Which is why I think, if you don't know, there have been attacks by the Ukrainians on the Belgorod region, again, incursions, and they keep just sending soldiers in there. And I think the theory, and also one of the theories behind Kursk invasion, which basically all that territory is almost retaken by Russia. But I think the theory is if we keep them tied up here in Kharkiv, Kursk, Belgorod area, they'll be forced to divert troops, and it'll prevent them from launching other. Because if they launch another major offensive on Sumy while keeping, and Zaporozhye region, while keeping up the pressure in Donetsk, Lugansk, and Kharkov, then I don't see how Ukraine can hold very much longer. So, especially with the man problem and all the other issues going on in the Ukraine military. So, I thought this was an interesting article. It's, because, read the British press. It's all like, hey, yeah, UK, and they talk. The corporate press and like BBC and European media, even here, they ask, like, this is actually a legit plan. How can people who are a belligerent in the conflict, be the peacekeepers? You can't. You're sending weapons, military intelligence, other types of equipment into the war. You're a party of the war. And you can just send peacekeepers. And what peace? There's no peace. There's no peace deal. In order for a peacekeeper, you think of the word peacekeeper, right? Keeping the peace. There is no peace. There's no peace plan. Not even close. So it's just the fantasy world that these people live in is unbelievable. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting here that with all the garbage going on, Spectator just comes in here and actually has a headline that is accurate. So moving on, which I already gave you a sneak peek there. This is on the COVID front. And I saw this, and it's great. This was in Canada. Now, I want you to see this chart. Now, look at that. That red line, the COVID-19 start. Now, you can see the upswing. That's COVID. This is excess mortality in Canada. It shoots up. Now, if you have a pandemic, and then it subsides, and the deaths go down related to that, and we can get into died of, died with, what happened to the flu deaths and all that. But let's just focus on the chart. If you see there is a little dip, right, as we get into 2021. I think that's also because COVID is going down, not as much that the vaccines are really doing anything. And then it jumps up and up through 2022. Up, second booster, third booster, fourth booster, and all the other elements. If you have a pandemic, you will get a spike in excess deaths, and then you will get a slope down. All right. You'll get a gap up and a gap back down. This doesn't do that. This doesn't even slide down. This just keeps going up and up and up and up. So, what is causing the excess deaths when COVID deaths dropped, which caused the initial small spike in 2020 to begin with? Well, you could argue depression and other items like that, maybe, but I don't think it would make these numbers chart look like this. But I'm sure that plays a role too. Yeah, more people were shut in, they got depressed, maybe they developed health problems because they started drinking too much, they didn't get medical care for existing conditions because of everything that went on. Who knows? But this is telling, and this is common. You can see excess deaths all over related to this. You can't. It's I say it's correlated. I don't know if it's cause and effect yet, but it needs to be studied. And if you're afraid of the effects of that, because then let's say in the United States you study this and you find out um, that these vaccines did not meet the contract of Operation Warp Speed, all of a sudden the immunity's gone, and then there's a lawsuit. There goes Pfizer and Moderna, and then what about the people who were fired from their jobs, and those companies get sued, and you open Pandora's box. But who cares? Because that's the natural order of things. That's free market. You force something that was unnatural, and now let the natural things come back. So like the 2008 financial crisis, let the banks go. Small and regionals will gobble it up. That's free market capitalism. And in this case, that's it. I don't care what happens to Pfizer. Sell everything and all their assets, give it to other pharmaceutical companies if that's what you're afraid of. Or how about criminal liability? Okay, who could, all the funds, NIH was directly controlled by Fauci. The funds went from him to American Medical Association and this association and that. And then, because half of our medical is controlled by corporations anyway, the lawyers wrote it to meet in line with that. So all this falls apart like a house of cards if you study it. And they don't want to study it because they know the answer. And then it's going to create problems for them. Who cares? We deserve our retribution for it. We deserve to know the truth. And people need to be held accountable. Okay? So that this never happens again. So, anyway, I wanted to share that chart because COVID is a sore spot for me because it was the dumbest 2 years of my life and the most insane things. It affected me personally, which I will never forgive for, at least until there's some sort of accountability. But anyway, so I wanted to comment on Le Pen and how these globalists are just continuing all over. You're not hearing it. Don't look at these isolated. Where else are they using this playbook? It's all over. And I wanted to comment on those elections for tomorrow for my predictions. So I'll keep an eye on the election results as they come in. Probably tweet out anything I hear early or whatever. So you could follow me on my X at Patriot Planner 1 and on my Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right. Thanks a lot and have a great night. Bye.